From Grace Walk Farm, and today we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to be teaching about trellis gardening and essentially how you can grow vertical in your garden. So today you're actually with me in my backyard garden, and you probably noticed I got my tools with me, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Trellis gardening is really simple, and I'm going to show you a few different methods that you can utilize in your own backyard or whatever space you're using to where you can not only grow food out, but you can grow food up. So I have a background in construction, and if you've ever spent any amount of time in building anything, you know that it's always easier to build up, and it's cheaper to build up than it is to build out. And the reasoning is because the further out you go, the more foundation you have to prepare, and that gets very expensive. Well, the same thing is true in your garden. So if you have a small area, or even if you have a big area, you can increase your growing power by using trellises. Now, on our homestead, we take advantage of cattle panels. Cattle panels are really unique because they're fairly inexpensive, and I want to say fairly because they can be pretty expensive. I have seen cattle panels as high as $50 before, and I did not buy them, and I wouldn't buy them. But I am able to secure these at either Tractor Supply or Rural King in our local area for usually around $25, $26, $27, $28. You might be able to catch a sale. And if you buy 25 or more, you can typically save a little bit more. So that's something to keep in mind. I want to take a moment and show you the few different options that you have when it comes to trellises. First of all, if you'll notice, this trellis, the spacing in between each of these bars is different. So there is a short area on one end, as you can see here, and it gets progressively bigger as it goes up, and then these are all the same size. The reasoning behind that is because these are typically used for livestock, and this area is closest to the ground, and you don't want your small animals to be able to escape. Well, that's not going to really affect you in your garden. However, if you do want to use the smaller spacing, it is helpful with certain types of crops. For instance, if you're growing beans, they're going to send out big leaves, and then after they get about this tall, they'll have vines that reach out and start grabbing hold. So it's nice to have smaller spaces for beans and things like that. But let's say you're doing watermelons or cantaloupe or honeydew or some other type of vining plant, maybe a cucamelon. Well, it's not really going to matter whether you have a small space or a large space. So don't let that deter you. Don't let that confuse you. Don't sit there and scratch your head and say, well, what in the world am I supposed to do with the small space versus the big space? It really doesn't matter. Now, with that being said, the most common way that you're going to see a cattle panel like this used as a trellis is as an archway. The number one question that we get asked a lot is, how far apart can you spread these, and how tall is it going to be when I walk under it? Well, this right here is a little over 5.5 feet wide. I typically don't make them quite this wide. It's just kind of how it worked out. I'm 6.5 feet, and as you can see, I've got about 2 inches right here. So this is about 6'3", maybe 6'4", give or take. So that'll kind of give you a rule of thumb to keep in mind. A cattle panel is 16 feet long. It's about 50 inches wide. And so when you bend it, if you try to shoot for about 4.5 to 5 foot of space, as far as how wide it will be, it's going to determine how tall your arch is going to be. So if you're someone that's 6'5", 6'6", 6'8", you know, you're going to struggle right here. You're going to have to end up walking like this. Me, on the other hand, I don't have that trouble. Amber doesn't have that trouble either. So kind of keep that in mind. Now I'm going to invite you to follow me. We're going to walk just right through here to what I like to call the tunnel of love. Now the tunnel of love is pretty uniform, as you can see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arches all in a row. All 5 of these arches are installed essentially the same way. And that's the second question that people are all the time asking is, how in the world can we hook this up? So you've got a few options. You probably noticed on this first arch that we were at that I have T-posts. You're also probably noticing right here, these are not T-posts. These right here, just to be real honest, I didn't think they would last as long as they have. These are just wooden spikes, wooden posts that I put into the ground and I have attached the trellis to. The other question that people ask is, well, how do you attach it? And I'm glad you asked. Come with me. You have a couple options when it comes to how you secure your trellises. On this one, I have gone an inexpensive route and I have used a zip tie. Now, not all zip ties are made the same. These zip ties have a 40, it's either a 40 or a 50 pound weight limit on them. And I have one here and two on that side. One's broke. In essence, there's 3 zip ties holding this on, and this has been here for 2 years. Will it break? Eventually. Will the sun bake it and make it brittle? Yes. Are these wooden stakes going to be permanent? No, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. I see so many people, they get inside their head and they're worried about whether this is going to work or they should do this, X, Y, Z, you name it. Friend, listen, here's what you need to do to take a lot of trouble off of your plate. Just do what you can. Use what you have around your home. Is this the most cost-effective thing for me to use? Yes. Is it the best looking thing that I could use? No. Could I have spent money and maybe $20 per stake? Sure, if I wanted to. But the name of the game is saving money. You know, over this past week, many of you have followed along with the lives. You've listened to, as Amber and Jill and Natalie have been teaching. You've not volunteered, you've signed up for the giveaways. You've been learning. And one of the things that I want you to remember is this. Your garden doesn't have to match everybody else's. It doesn't have to look like you just walked out of Better Homes and Gardens. And I know that you're not Martha frickin' Stewart. And it's okay. It's not a problem. Not everybody is that. Here's what you can do. You can do what you can do. And there's nothing wrong with that. You are enough. You're smart enough. You can do it. Trellising is super easy. It's going to more than double your garden. And it's going to make your life a lot easier. Now, for us, we grow a lot of different things on our trellises. And while some trellises might be put together with zip ties, there are other trellises that are going to have wire ties. And I'm going to show you that here in just a few moments. The main thing to keep in mind is that you're really only limited by your own imagination. Now, in this tunnel of love, all 5 of these trellises are about 5.5 feet wide. They're about 6'4", 6'3" inches tall, and it works really well for us. Now, another reason these are so secure is you've probably noticed I'm taking advantage of tension. Right here is my garden bed. Right here is my trellis. The trellis is made into an arch, and it's naturally going to want to spread out like a bird flapping its wings. Well, since it's in between each bed, it can't go out anymore. So all I have to do is secure it here and here. I need to make sure it doesn't slide left or right. I don't have to worry about it flopping around. Many people ask questions. Well, when this fills up with tomatoes or cucumbers or whatever it is that you're growing, if the wind blows, is it real unstable? You might think it is, but it's not. In fact, it doesn't move that much when it's storming, when it's windy. The reason is because it's open and the air can move through. Even when this is covered with vines, even when it has fruit on it and vegetables, the air can move through it. It's not an air dam. It's not going to catch wind and just sit here and break your stuff. It's very stable. It's very secure. Like I said, these were installed 2 years ago. I haven't touched them since. It really is almost set it and forget it. Now, with that in mind, you might be asking, well, what all can I grow on trellises? You can really grow anything you want. We primarily use our trellises to grow beans and tomatoes. However, we're also going to be utilizing them for a few other things. I want to invite you to walk with me over. I'm going to show you a different setup with trellises, and this is where we grow our cucumbers. Now, a lot of you have said that you struggle with your cucumbers because cucumbers are vines and they like to spread out and go everywhere. And if you've ever picked cucumbers, you know how hard it can be not to step on the vine, not to break the vine. So this right here is our cucumber section. And what we have right here are 2 cattle panels, one here and one here. Both of them are 16 feet long. Both of them are 50 inches tall. And as you can see, they are secured next to T-posts. These T-posts are 6-foot T-posts that have been put into the ground about 18 to 24 inches. And then this has been attached with zip ties. Again, I know that's not the most secure option. I know that some people don't like that. There's even some people that are going to say, well, you're introducing microplastics into your garden. I'm not one of those cats, and if you are, that's fine. You're allowed to be. But zip ties work fine. And if they do break, they're inexpensive, and you can replace them real easy. You can buy an entire bag for $12, $13, $14. It's not that expensive. With these set up, what we typically do is we can set up 6 to 8 cucumber vines on each side. And that is going to completely cover this trellis. So this trellis is placed inside a bed that is 4 feet wide and 16 feet long. But what we've actually done is we're getting 3 beds out of one. We have a 16-foot trellis, another 16-foot trellis, and a 16-foot bed. So we grow our cucumbers on this trellis. And then right down here in the dirt, we grow other things. We've got peas, we've got onions, we've got carrots, we've got cabbage, we've got kale, you name it. We utilize every bit of space. And the reason that we do that is because we don't want to leave any bare soil. Because if the soil is naked, it won't stay that way long. It's going to grow weeds. And once you have one patch of weeds, it's going to spread. So, it goes right along with companion planting. If you're going to use trellises, companion planting is going to be your best friend. That's one of those things that you really learn just by doing, getting your hands involved with it and getting them dirty. Amber's got a lot of information on companion planting. One of the neat things in the bundle that you're going to find is there's information about companion planting there. Amber touches on that. She's also going to give you a lot of layouts on how you can lay your garden out, where you should plant your items and how they can work in conjunction with one another. You're going to find all sorts of information in your bundle about composting, about how you can build your own soil. You're going to find information like I'm telling you now about how you can build trellises and where you can put them and what you can grow on them. I want you to take a look right over here to my right. It may be your left. It's a wide open area and you see 7-foot T-posts are just sticking out of the ground. Let's walk over there and I'll show you what we're going to do in that area. This portion of our garden is going to be our bean section. Now in years past, this is where we have always grown our tomatoes. But our tomatoes are actually going to be moved. We're going to do some crop rotation this year. And instead of growing tomatoes here, we're going to do lots and lots of green beans. We're going to do bush beans, we're going to do pole beans. But the vast majority of them are going to be pole beans. So, the way we're going to build these trellises is a little bit different. In fact, let me get one of our clips.
You guys, thanks for all these comments. I'm behind the camera and I'm reading everything. Keep asking questions and I'll throw them out to Josh when he gets done teaching.
I don't know where my clips went.
He's looking for his clips.
I found them. Talk to the camera.
Okay. I'll pop around and say, hey y'all. He's grabbing the clips. We left them in the other side of the garden. You loving this so far? I'm seeing all your comments and questions, and we're going to get to questions at the end. Hang in. Here he comes.
I'm sorry about that. I wasn't very prepared for you. If you ever go to Tractor Supply or Rural King or Southern States or Lowe's or Home Depot or any of the other big stores and you buy a T-post, when you buy a pack of T-post, you typically get a package of metal ties, and they look like this. And the reason they look like this is because this point, this bend, is supposed to go around the backside of a T-post. It's literally going to go just like this, or like this, either way. Now, if you'll come with me, I'm going to show you exactly how this lines up on a cattle panel right here. When it's time to install your cattle panel, for us in this area, since we're growing beans here, we don't need this panel real far off the ground. When we grow tomatoes, the bottom of my trellis is usually 18 inches above the ground. And that's so that I've got enough room for my plant to go underneath. And if I need to give it some help, I can have some twine hanging down off of this panel, and I can wrap it around my tomato plant and encourage it to grow straight up the panel. I don't have to do that with beans. Beans are going to throw some leaves up, and then they're going to start shooting their feelers off their vines, and they're going to start making green beans. So when it's time to hook this up, you don't have to raise it up off the ground. You can put it ground level. And the way you secure it is like this. Just like this. Then you're going to take your pliers and you twist it around. Just like that. And that is not going anywhere. I can't pick it up. I'm pulling on it. I can't pull it off. That is there. It's not coming off. So for anyone that doesn't like using plastic zip ties and you think that that's not going to be strong enough for you, use the metal ties that come with your T-post. Now, that leads me to another area about trellis gardening, vertical gardening. And that is, how high should they be? You got a lot of options. If you look behind me, you'll see we have T-posts there, we have T-posts here, and they're a little bit different height. These T-posts were 6-foot T-posts that are now put into the ground about 2 feet. And I've been growing green beans there. These are 7-foot T-posts put into the ground, a little bit, about 18 inches or so. Here's what I've learned. With green beans, I need more room. 50 inches is not enough vertical space, in my opinion, for green beans. I would like to have about 60 inches. I'd like to have about 5 feet. So what I should have done is I should have used a taller T-post. I should have used a T-post like this so that I could raise my panel up off the floor of the garden 8, 10, 12 inches, however far I wanted to go. And if I need to fill in that space, if I need to help my plants, you use twine, and you tie twine to the bottom of your panel, and you let it hang down to your plant, and then you can tie it around your plant, and it will encourage it to grow up on the panel. Here's the thing. You're only limited by your own creation. You can make any shape. You can make it as long or as short as you want. If you look right over here to my left, you're right, you'll see another way that we've built an arch. This is the original arch in our garden. This was the very first one we did. This is 2 cattle panels put together. So it's 8 feet long and it's 4 feet wide. But you probably notice it's attached on the outside, whereas you could attach it on the inside. Remember, the panel wants to flare out. And so if you could plant this on the inside of your garden bed, it's not going to fan out. On this one, it's on the outside, and so the way this is secured is with fence staples, 1-inch fence staples. And I have to tell you, I would not encourage you to do that. This is by far my least favorite method of installing an arch. It was my first one, and I learned a lesson. It looks fine. There's not a thing in the world wrong with it. It was just a little bit harder to install. Now, the benefit to having an arch over your in-ground bed is that, let's say in late September, October, into November, the weather starts to cool off, but you're still enjoying your garden. You still want to grow things. Maybe you want to grow kale or lettuce or something like that. That's fine, you can. The benefit of having this is you can actually put plastic over this. You could put some sort of tarp over this. You can enclose this and make your own high tunnel if that's what you want to do. There's plenty of information in the bundle that you can get access to this week that talks about high tunnels and things like that. So if you're interested in learning more about that, now's the time to get a hold of that information. That's really about the extent of what we do on our farm with vertical gardening. what you're going to find is that not only will it double your space, it will actually triple your space. Like in the case of this garden bed here, we have one 16-foot bed and we have two 16-foot trellises. So that's like having 3 in-ground beds in one space. It's really, it's more bang for your buck. You're going to get a lot more production in your garden, and I think you'll be happier with it. Yes, there is some expense up front because these panels, I mean, they're not super expensive, but they're not cheap. I mean, $24, $25, $26 a piece. By the time you buy 4 of them, there's $100. It doesn't take long to spend $500 in your garden, and you haven't even grown the first beet yet. So I know that can be difficult. We're in our 5th year here on this property, and we did buy a few more cattle panels this spring, but not a lot. We're still using all the ones that we bought 5 years ago, and 4 years ago, and 3 years ago, which leads me to my final point. You need to take care of yourself where you are. Don't try to be like everybody else. You're not everybody else. We're not everybody else. We can only do what we can do. And so we take advantage of what we have. We use the materials around our house that we have. When we have leftover lumber, instead of going to Lowe's, we use the leftover lumber. If we have zip ties and I don't have any metal ties, guess what I'm going to use? I'm going to use the zip ties because that's what I have. I'm sure you can find smarter people. I'm sure you can find more informed people. I'm sure you can find people that have a wealth not only of knowledge but of money, and they can buy anything they need. But for everyday common folks like me and you, we have to use what we have and we have to make it work. So in this world, in this backyard, what we do is vertical gardening because it makes all the difference. So with that being said, I'm going to ask Amber if she's got any questions. She's been manning the camera for us. Amber, what are our questions?
So I just saw one come through asking if you can talk a bit about how you build the beds, the size of the beds that we have,
Sure.
What kind of lumber to use, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to take the dad squat right here.
We'll come down with you. Hold on.
All right. This bed is one of our originals. This is a 16-foot bed, 16 feet long. It's 4 feet wide. Now, depending on who you ask, they're going to tell you that this is a crappy bed. And I mean, it kind of is. It's nothing fancy. It's nothing spectacular. The boards that I used, I built this when I still worked at Lowe's Hardware. And when I worked at Lowe's, I got a great deal on cull lumber that nobody wanted to buy, lumber that was twisted, warped, broke, busted, you name it. So I would buy junky lumber and I would use it. And that's what this is. These are deck boards. Deck boards, treated deck boards. So there's really nothing fancy about it. The way this is built, this is 2 deck boards tall, and that's really it. 4 feet wide, 16 feet long. In each corner, I have a 6x6 that I cut into 12-inch or 12 long. I can't talk. They're 12 inches long. The 6x6s are, and the reason that is because that's how tall I wanted the bed to be. So when you make your corners, your feet, your legs, so to speak, that's going to determine essentially how tall your bed can be. So 12 inches on the legs, and then deck boards, they're just 2 deck boards high. Now I have some other beds, and what I used was 2x10. And you can use treated or you can use untreated. All of mine are treated. And some people will ask the question, aren't you afraid to grow food around treated lumber? And I would say no. Years and years and years ago, they would treat lumber with arsenic. They don't do that now. Lumber is treated typically with salt water. And while I don't necessarily want to grow my food in salt water, you're not going to be growing your food in salt water. The wood has been treated for ground contact. That doesn't mean that it won't rot. It will rot eventually, but because it's treated, it will last longer. And so we're typically, this bed is 5 years old. If I don't touch it, if I don't do anything else to it, we'll probably get another year or 2 out of it, and then it's going to break, and then we'll have to replace it. But that's the way most of our beds are built. The first ones were 16 feet long, and I started going to 8-foot beds because they were easier to build and they're easier to handle and move if I have to move it by myself.
Awesome. Okay, another question we got, like in the tunnel behind you here where we've got peas on the side. Someone asked, could you strategically plant like shade loving things in the middle of that tunnel, and then let, you know, your sun lovers climb.
Come with me. So, in years past, we have grown beans on this trellis, on this arch, and it has been completely full. And when that is the case, the area in the middle is shaded. Let me tell you the best thing that you can grow right here is cabbage or kale. Any type of leafy green, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, radishes. You know, obviously they're going to need some light, and this area will still get some light throughout the day, but it's primarily going to be shaded. And what that's going to do is lower the overall temperature in this section of the bed. So your cold hardy plants like a broccoli, like a cauliflower, like a Brussels sprout, they're going to do better where they're not getting beat down by the sun. So yes, to answer your question, you most definitely can plant shade-loving stuff underneath your archways, and they are going to thrive.
What about with the way the sun hits people's gardens? How do they know the direction to place their panels? How would you approach that?
So I know that there is a right and a wrong way in a lot of people's minds, but for me, I know that the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. And for me, the east is right over there and the west is right over there. And so the sun is just going to go right over our home. Every area of our garden, except right over next to the tree line, is going to get direct sun the whole day. I mean, from sun up till sundown. Now, on the far side of the house, there's a shady spot. But the entire garden is in the sun all day long. Now, if your area is a little bit different, then it's going to depend on what you're planting. I would imagine most everybody is planting vegetables and fruit that are going to need full sun. Full sun is obviously more than 6 hours a day. So you need to be wise with where you plant your things. If you watch your property in the mornings and you can see the areas that are shady and the areas that stay in the shade longer than others, kind of keep a mental note of that. As far as should I be facing the east or the southwest, or do I need to, I really don't know. And I'm just going to be honest with you. That's not anything that I don't mean this disrespectful, but me personally, I don't care about that. And that's just me. Now, I know everybody else's situation might be a little bit different. And you might be in a situation, you might be in an area where, like I said, where it is a little shaded, and you do need to know those things. And if you do, I would strongly encourage you to consult the Farmer's Almanac.
Or there's a website called Sun Maps. I think it's sunmap.com, or you can look up Sun Map and put in your address, and it will show you like how the sun moves over your property if you're on a brand new piece of land. That's
a good piece of information. I would encourage you to spend some time in the early morning watching your property so that you can see, you know, how it lights up, where it's dark and where it's light.
Okay, and then we've got some questions from like our patio gardeners, the people that are working on a concrete pad, and they want to add some trellises to go vertically. How would you recommend installing trellises on a concrete pad when you can't put them deep in the soil?
Okay, so this is a really cool idea. I've seen this utilized. It does require a tool. You're going to need either something called 10 snips. Wire cutters won't work because wire cutters aren't robust enough to cut this right here. If you've got a grinder, you can cut it with a grinder. If you've got 10 snips, you can cut it with 10 snips. I've got bolt cutters that I cut all of my cattle panels with, and it's easy. It's not a big deal. With that in mind, let's say you're growing food in containers on your back patio, your front porch, whatever it may be, but you want to build some trellises. Buy one cattle panel and cut it into strips. Here's what I mean. You don't have to move. You don't have to move. Let's say you bought one cattle panel. So then come in here with your bolt cutters or your grinder or whatever you're using to cut it, and cut it right here. You see that right there? You got about 8 to 10 inches right here. You just cut this all the way around, and you're going to have a 16-foot strip. And here's what you do. You take one end and you bury it in your bucket. And you take the other end and you bury it in another bucket. And now you've got an archway between two buckets, and you can move it wherever you want. You can have an archway at the top of your steps. You can have an archway coming out of your house. You can have an archway lining your sidewalk. You name it. And it's only going to be about this big. Now here's the neat part. You can take one tomato plant and put it in that bucket, and take another tomato plant and put it in the other bucket, and grow it up this arch right here, and you will have more tomatoes than you know what to do with. You can do that with cucumbers, with cucamelons. Anything that wants to vine, anything that wants to grow up or out is going to love vertical gardening.
Awesome. Anybody else got questions? We'll give you another minute before we wrap up. Thank you guys for tuning in for this. This has been a fun class. Somebody said they used to decorate for Christmas by using the same idea with strips of a cattle panel.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I've also seen people hang string lights. Like, so at night they can come hang out in their gardens and they've got like the solar string lights.
Yeah. Hey, let me show you something else. I know this isn't necessarily about vertical gardening, but it might be. Follow me. We're going to go right back here behind Miss Amber. Here is an aspect of vertical gardening that you might not think is vertical gardening. But if you've spent any amount of time in your garden, you know that a lot of times you're on your hands and knees working, and it's hard on your back. We have some new planter beds right here that are actually up off the ground about 4 feet, and we're using it as seed starting area. We're going to grow greens and things like that. But I just want you to notice, I can work this and I'm not hunched over. I'm not having to bend over or stoop down. I'm literally right here and I can do all of my work. So another thing that I would encourage you to do, if you can, for vertical gardening, is get yourself up off the ground so that you don't hurt your knees and your back and you're tired and you're wore out all the time. Lord knows after a hard day of working for 6, 8, 10, 12 hours, you don't want to crawl around on the ground outside. Get yourself up off the ground with some vertical working planters. It's a good idea.
Love it. All right, come over here with me, hon. I'm going to spin this around. So you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us and talking about trellis building. It has been really fun to show you our setup. I wanted to mention to you, we have an empty garden tour on YouTube where you can actually kind of tour our garden in the winter when it's completely empty and see our full setup of all of the beds if you're interested in that. And then of course we're going to post this class there as well so you can get back to it if you need it. But before we go, I want to invite you one more time to comment the word library. When you do, I'm going to send you a message and it's going to have a link to the Homestead library we've been talking about all week. And there's also going to be a gift for you that you do not want to miss. Probably the coolest gift I've ever been able to offer to my Instagram community. So check that out. I also saw some questions about companion planting and pest control. And you guys, we could talk about that for hours. I have so much to say about that. You know, we grow completely organically and we don't use any sort of sprays. We do all companion planting. And so I wrote an entire book about that is in that Homestead library. So when you comment library and you go look at it, look for my book. It will be number 4 on your download list, and you can print it out. You can save it to your phone and bring it out into the garden with you to help you figure out your layouts. And there's layouts designed to use with trellises in there as well.
That's right.
So you can see where to put your trellis in the bed and which companions to put around it. All of that's in there.
The main thing is to enjoy what you're doing and enjoy where you are. Listen, we spend so much time thinking about, well, X amount of time down the road, or I'm going to be able to do this or do that. Listen, you can do whatever you want right now.
That's right.
The only limit you have is yourself. So take advantage of where you are. Use what you've got around your home. You don't have to spend $1 million, but get your hands and your feet in the dirt and plant something. You'll be, oh, I forgot to mention something.
Mention it.
Hey, there's a lot of people that are growing big fruit on these cattle panels, like watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew, you name it. You can do that, and you can do it very successfully. All you need to do is create hammocks for your fruit to lay in and to grow. You can use plastic grocery bags. I know people hate plastic. I'm just telling you options. You can tie them up with twine. You can use bags.
Old pantyhose.
Old pantyhose.
Those are the best.
Is where I was going to go. You can take pantyhose and you cut out a section and you tie it onto your panels and literally put your fruit in it, and it'll hold it there. It's really awesome what you can do.
We grew a watermelon on one time, not even on purpose. The vine just sort of like made its way to a trellis and started climbing up. And that was a heavy watermelon, and it hung on. We didn't even hammock it. Like,
it hung on.
It made it, and it was a big one.
Yeah. And if you want something fun to grow on your trellises, I'm going to give you two options. Number one is loofah. If you've never grown loofah, loofah loves to vine. I mean, we planted 3 seeds last year, and I think we harvested about 80 loofahs.
That was crazy.
They will take over, so be careful with where you put it because they will take over your garden. The other one is tromboncino squash.
My favorite.
They look fantastic when they're on the trellis. It looks like a piece of art because that squash is going to be, in some cases, 3.5, 4 feet long. It might have a corkscrew around it where it twists up. It's beautiful on the vine. It's a great conversation piece in your garden because most people have never even heard of tromboncino squash.
And they're delicious.
And they taste real similar to butternut squash.
Yeah. So if you harvest them when they're green, when they're fresh, you can cut them up and like treat them like a regular crookneck squash or a summer squash. But if you wait and you leave them on the vine until they turn like that butternut color, they will store all winter long. We stored tromboncino one winter, like all the way through till the next March.
Sure did.
And they never rotted. So that's a good one for winter eating too.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, I hope that tromboncino, somebody said what it's called again. Tromboncino.
It's a weird name.
Tromboncino. And it's one that's kind of hard to find seeds for, but you can find them on Etsy. So there's your little tip on that.
There you go. Hey, if you have any more questions, feel free to drop them here or on any of the other posts on our page, and we'll do our dead level best to answer them. Send us a message. We get a lot of them. I can't promise we'll see it, but if I see it, I'll answer it. I promise.
We'll do our best. All right. Thanks, you guys. I hope you have a good weekend.